felt that the family unit revolved too much around his success, his fame and fortune. He thought his generosity with family members was not really being fully appreciated. I think Olivia notarized those thoughts. That was her role in it. And one relative of Aaron's told me that he found a comrade in Olivia that basically confirmed the things he was already thinking about.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Wisdom Wednesday, presented, of course, by DraftKings, with the wisdom coming from Ian O'Connor, who just wrote that book that just came out about Aaron Rodgers. Fascinating, including the details about his estrangement from his family, which I've always wondered what the deal is there. Hopefully Ian has answers. I've been told that he does. We'll get to that. We'll get to some of the NFL news. I've got something to say about preseason takes because a lot of people seem to have them. Tomorrow we'll have the great Greg Cosell, which means we'll also hopefully be announcing winners for those of you that spread the word via social media, those of you that take advantage of any of our sponsors and email me, ross@rosstucker.com, and those of you that make a YouTube comment, youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL. Be off to also, for sure, go ahead and subscribe. Patron of the day, Ross Ward. I like that name, Ross. Come on down, patreon.com/RT Media. Keep it coming. Before we get to Ian, I want to make sure everybody knows 1864. That's when Smirnoff started. Long history. By the way, they're the official vodka partner of the NFL and the world's #1 vodka. Here's what you should do. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer. Go to Smirnoff.com. Just do it right now on your phone to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
So I got to be honest with you guys. I get pitched by PR guys and PR companies to bring people on to promote a book all the time. And I almost always say no. But I said yes this time for 3 reasons, okay? Number one, the PR guy that reached out to me, Jimmy Shapiro, he's the man. I love Jimmy. So Jimmy, that's already a huge leg up. Number two, the author is someone I know and does a fantastic job. I lost track of how many New York Times bestsellers he has, Ian O'Connor. And number three, the book, which is called Out of the Darkness, The Mystery of Aaron Rodgers. He's obviously a fascinating guy at this point, no matter how you feel about him. Love him, hate him, anywhere in between. You can't argue he's not interesting on a bunch of different levels, including the family stuff, which might be what I'm most interested in, which we'll get to momentarily. I was going to ask you, Ian, what the impetus for the book was. I guess I just said it, right? I mean, he's the quarterback for the Jets, year 20, 40-something. He's got very strong opinions about a lot of different things. I mean, I guess that's the impetus for the book, right?
That's certainly part of it, Ross, and it's good to see you. And thank you for your help with my Belichick book some years ago. You were great. And so I one thing is Vince Lombardi coached my high school, and I did play on that team later, and we actually felt the weight of that legacy. I know it sounds crazy decades later, and Vince Lombardi also lived 8 houses away from the house I grew up in. So I was always fascinated by Packer mystique, and I felt like I had a Packers book in me at some point, and I guess this is the one. But I was originally scheduled to write a biography of LeBron James. Then another LeBron book came out, and I was looking to pivot away from it, and Aaron got traded into my backyard in New York. And I was thinking he's a mysterious, fascinating figure, and I wanted to take that on. I thought that what was interesting to me is from a distance, I thought he was one of the most fascinating interviews in the NFL. I thought he was, even if I didn't agree with some of the things he was saying, thoughtful, engaging. He didn't speak in cliches like you don't. And I don't know. I was always intrigued by the guy, and I'm drawn to mysterious and distant figures, and so I took it on.
We'll get to the interview with him because I'm curious if that's well, you know what? While we're on it, let's start with that. What was it? Is that what you found in your one-on-one with him? How long, how much time did he give you? And did your perception of him as an interviewee, is that what it was like?
When I walked in, I didn't know what I was walking into. I had done 250 interviews. I had handed in the manuscript in late January, I believe, and I had no cooperation from Aaron Rodgers. He didn't respond to my messages. I went through the Jets. I went through his agent. I contacted him directly. I sent him my Coach K and Belichick books. Nothing. I got nothing but indifference. And frankly, he didn't owe me a damn thing. It's unauthorized. He didn't ask me to write it. So I was actually fine with it, and I've written biographies in the past without any cooperation from the subject, Belichick foremost among them. And so then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, I get a message from the Jets. Aaron's now willing to see you. I was I was happily floored, and so I hopped on a plane. There was a bomb threat on my plane, and so we got diverted to Chicago. And I'm thinking I'm not going to get there for this interview. Thankfully, after an 8-hour delay, the plane resumed its flight to LA and drove to his house in Malibu. And it's a beautiful house, as you might expect. He met me at the front door. We walked in. He took me to his backyard. His backyard is literally the Pacific Ocean. His deck is on a bluff right above the Pacific. It's a beautiful place. And we sat there. I didn't know, Ross, like, how much time I had. What if it's 25 minutes in and he doesn't like the line of questioning and he boots me out of there? And so what I did was, listen, for full cooperation, I would have needed 15 to 20 hours with him. So I thought I was only getting one, and he gave me two, but I had to throw things overboard that I wanted to ask him and really prioritize the most important things in my mind anyway, family estrangement, the COVID situation, and some other topics of note. But he was great. He was candid, he was thoughtful, engaged. He went places I didn't think he would go. He did comment, for the record, on some aspects of the family estrangement. I was a little surprised by that. He admitted he made a major mistake with his COVID statement anyway, back in August of 21, and he made it a better book. And I really appreciated that.
Wow, that's awesome. Let's dive into the family estrangement because it's so interesting, Ian. I got to be honest with you. That's always been the most fascinating aspect of him to me. And right or wrong, I don't know his family at all. I don't know what happened. You're about to tell me, but I feel like his whole career, the fact that I've known he's estranged from his family has sort of, I don't want to say tainted, but those are the lens through what I've seen, through how I viewed him, right? Like the type of person that doesn't talk to their parents, like, really? How does that happen? So you tell me, because I don't really care very much about the football stuff. Maybe we'll get into the COVID stuff, but this is the stuff that I was really curious about.
Yeah, and it's a sad story. I think a lot of people have issues inside their families. I come from a big Irish Catholic family. We've had our share. This one is extreme. And so I went in thinking there was one defined reason or issue or development that caused it. And as it turns out, there's a lot of he said, she said. There are really like 15 reasons, and a lot of them seem trivial to me. The parents blame Olivia Munn. That simple. Now, he hasn't dated her in 7 years. So, and the estrangement lives on. So I'm not sure how she's fully to blame for this. I think what happened was he walked into that relationship in 2014, which is the start of the estrangement. And he did have feelings about his family. His family disagrees with these feelings. And certainly Ed and Darla, who are very nice people, I got a chance to spend a lot of time with his parents. They don't see it this way, but unfortunately, Aaron does, and he's driving this estrangement. He felt that the family unit revolved too much around his success, his fame and fortune. He thought his generosity with family members was not really being fully appreciated. I think Olivia notarized those thoughts. That was her role in it. And one relative of Aaron's told me that he found a comrade in Olivia that basically confirmed the things he was already thinking about. And so if you want to blame her for that, then that's fair. But he had issues with his brothers that seemed not that big of a deal to me, but to him, were big deals. They had issues with him as well. And religion was a part of it early on. He was raised in a devoutly Christian evangelical home, particularly his mother, very religious. And he did rebel against that later on. And I think that planted the seed for other rebellions in his life. And so here we are. There is no clear one reason why this exists. And so, and he was upset with his brother Jordan for going on The Bachelorette. That was one thing that really bothered him. And when Jordan went on there and used the estrangement in the depiction of family life there, when they had the two empty chairs, I don't know if you remember, signifying the absence of Aaron and Olivia at the dinner table. And he told me I wasn't even invited to that filming. Not that I would have gone, but he was upset that Jordan, trying to pursue a TV career, talked openly and on that show about their estrangement and their issues. And he just didn't think that was right at all. So you add it up to really what's become a living being or a living organism, the estrangement. And he doesn't know how to confront it and kill it. So he's allowed it to linger and live and fester. And I do have a hopeful scene in the book where last summer he hugged his father at a golf tournament, the celebrity golf tournament at Lake Tahoe. He saw his dad in the crowd. Ed Rodgers planted himself in the crowd because he wanted to be seen. And Aaron decided, this is the day that I'm going to hug my dad. And he went up to him. Ed had lost sight of him and was looking toward the ninth tee box. And this is Saturday in the middle of Aaron's round. And he turned around and there's Aaron 15 feet away looking at him. And Ed froze because he said, I forgot what that felt like to have my son look at me, to have my son be in my presence. And Aaron came up and hugged him and said, I love you, Dad, Pops. And Ed said, I love you, son. And he cried, and Aaron gathered himself and he had to finish his round. So I'm surprised there wasn't really any follow up after that. But both of them told me for the book, they want a relationship. Aaron, for the first time since 2014, has now publicly said he wants a relationship with one of his family members. And hopefully that will lead to reconciliation.
That's was going to be my question, Ian, is like, I'm hoping that maybe you saying there's this he said, she said, 10, 15 different stories, that maybe you getting these people to talk and maybe them reading whatever they each say in the book, if they do read it, maybe that can be the thing that gets them back on track. Because it's been 10 years now. And I mean, easy for me to say, and like you, we all have our own family issues, right? Family dynamics, but man, it just it seems like such a shame. You know, you work so hard to get to this point, and none of the things that you said, and again, easy for me to say, but none of the things that you said seem like total deal breakers to me, right? Like there are things, right? You can think about physical abuse, or like there are things that I feel like you can say, okay, yeah, you're gonna have a tough time coming back from that. But the way you described it, okay, I can see a family unit um revolving too much around someone that's as prominent of a figure as him, and I can see them. That happened a lot. I mean, Kobe Bryant and his parents had issues about, they were like selling his, I live near Philly. They were like selling his old gear, and they didn't feel like he was as generous as he should have been. And he felt like he was plenty. I think this happens more often than we realize.
Yeah, and it's listen, it's a sad story. And I did spend time, his brothers, Aaron's brothers, did not talk to me for the book, Luke and Jordan. And I wish they did, but they didn't. And Ed and Darla, nice people, and I felt for them as a parent. And I hope in some strange way that this book will help. I really hope it doesn't hurt the possibility of reconciliation. But I listen, the way it was going to live forever. Something had to change the dynamic, and getting them to talk about it a little bit maybe will be of some assistance. And that's really in my heart as a father, as a human being, what I would love to see happen. And I guess we'll see how it plays out. But I ended up driving his parents to the 9/11 game last September, And it's really the only time they ever get a chance to be in the same room with their son is when they go to a football game. It's a big room, right, with 80,000 other people, but at least they're in the same building with their flesh and blood. And of course, when I drove them to that game, we had no idea what was about to happen 4 snaps into the New York Jets season. And I had to drive them home, and that was a surreal drive, knowing what had happened that night. And I was never more heartsick for an athlete and a fan base than I was in that building on the night of 9/11. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I think that there is a little momentum, not much, but a little going in the right direction. And it'd be great if Aaron could win a Super Bowl with the Jets this year or next year, because I do think he'll play at least 2 more years, and his family could enjoy it on the field with him. I mean,
So
that's
so
this.
they don't talk, Ian,
No.
but they go to some of his games.
Yeah, they not many. I think Ross. They went to some home openers in Green Bay at Lambeau, and they went to the home opener on 9/11 last September. I do believe they'll go to the home opener this year against the Patriots, week 3. So that's about it. I think they might have gone to 1 or 2 other games, but again, it's the only time they're in the same place with Aaron. And Aaron grew up. He wanted to be his dad. He was obviously a 49ers fan where he lived in Chico, California, north of Sacramento, and he wanted to be Joe Montana or Steve Young, but really his idol was his father. He said that in college, and he wanted to be his dad. So I think the road to a reconciliation runs through Ed Rodgers, and I think that should happen soon. I wish I could, as a journalist, you're not really supposed to get involved. So I don't, I would like to as a human being, but I feel like there might be a way I could help, and I've tried to hold back, but I just hope it organically happens.
Does he have close relationships, Ian? It seems to me like there's a lot of times it's new friends or he's by himself. Does he have close relationships with people? Like, do people like him?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's got Ross. He's got loyal friends from. He grew up in Chico, California, but he spent a few years of his childhood in Oregon, and he's still close to people from his Oregon childhood and from California. And some of those guys on the West Coast flew out to New York last year for his 40th birthday party in Manhattan, and they rave about him, how he is with their kids. He wants to be a father, and that's the next stage of his life, is fatherhood. And there are family members who think like if he had kids already, maybe this estrangement might have ended. And just because he would feel what it's like to be a dad, and imagining what it would be like if my son or daughter never talked to me and how painful that would be. But Aaron is great with kids. I've heard that from all of his friends who have children, and I've seen it too. And so he wants very much to be a dad. He told me, I want to be responsible for somebody else's existence. I want to know what that feels like. So I expect after his career ends in the next 2, 3 years, he gets married, he has 2 or 3 kids, and who knows what that will lead to, but it'll be interesting to see.
The perception I have of him, Ian, or that some people have told me, is that he thinks and sometimes acts like he's smarter than everyone else. Is that fair?
Yeah, not fair. He does. And he's a smart guy. He got 1310 on his SATs. I'm not ashamed to admit that was better than my score. So I guess he's a little smarter than I am, at least, if not a lot. And I think he does like to show off his intelligence, and he does like people talking about him. He does like creating news cycles. And so oftentimes, though, he'll get himself in trouble by trying to be or to show you he's the smartest person in the room instead of just letting his intelligence carry the day. And so, yeah, that is certainly a factor in his public life where he's in trying to outsmart people, he's actually hurt himself. For instance, the COVID thing in 2021, August, at the press conference, Aaron, are you vaccinated? Yeah, I've been immunized. Those 4 words changed his whole life, and they were unnecessary. And I told him, if I were calm sitting in that room, I was vaxxed, but if you said your truth at the time, you were allergic to PEG and Pfizer and Moderna, and you were concerned about Johnson and Johnson side effects, I would have found that to be a somewhat reasonable position. And I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure I would not have hammered you in my column that day, and you would have gotten less than half the criticism you got when the truth came out in November. And he doesn't admit too many mistakes, but he did admit that mistake. He said, I should have just told the truth, and that hurt him, and I don't think he's really recovered from it.
Um, this came out, I think, after you were done with the book. But like the whole Egypt unexcused absence thing, just kind of your opinion on that, Ian, because I know that probably came out after you did all the research, but just
Yeah.
just kind of your thoughts, since that's the most recent thing.
I don't think it's a big deal, but I think it's a deal. Anytime you're the leader and the captain and basically the franchise player, and there's something mandatory, you should be there. Aaron gave back $35 million to the Jets to help them on the cap last year. So I think he can afford the change fee that would have been required to change that trip by 3 days or whatever it was. And I think he could have gone to the two practices and also gone to Egypt. But he was not excused, and people ripped Robert Saleh for how he handled it. I'm not sure how Saleh was supposed to handle that. Aaron put him in an impossible position because he can't set a precedent where it's okay to miss mandatory stuff. It's just a bad thing for the rest of the team. But I don't think his teammates, honestly, Ross, I don't think they cared because he has been so good for 2 straight summers. He's gotten all the voluntary stuff, all of it, and all the mandatory stuff except for these two practices. And that is when you sign up, when you're Aaron Rodgers' employer, this is what you sometimes have to deal with. Now, Green Bay got the upside of Aaron Rodgers and later in his career, the downside. The Jets, being the Jets, they only have gotten the downside. And Jimmy Kimmel, that thing, the conspiracy theories, Egypt, the RFK Jr. thing, which then led to the CNN Sandy Hook report. The Jets have gotten all that downside and none of the upside. So this year they're due for the upside on the field of a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Check him out on social media. He's a Hall of Fame writer at Ian_O'Connor. Out of the Darkness, the mystery of Aaron Rodgers. Sounds fantastic, Ian. Thanks so much for the time and coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Ross. Appreciate it.
That was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Now I got to read the book, and now you guys got to get the Game Time app on your phone if you haven't already. I'm just looking at my game this weekend in Philly. Right now, it's down to $29. Eagles hosting the Vikings. Listen, a lot of young kids, like 10 and under, they don't even know the difference between preseason and regular season. So this is the game that take your whole family to. And I said this on the Even Money podcast yesterday, but this is pretty cool. There's a Hot Wheels Monster Trucks rally on Saturday at the Wells Fargo Center. So you can double dip. You can dip and then dip again on the Game Time app. Download it, create an account, use code ROSS for $20 off your first purchase. Whether you want to go to the game, the monster trucks, or any of the concerts they've got going, terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code ROSS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Speaking of guaranteed, I guarantee I'll be drinking some Labatt Blue Lights this weekend, hanging out with friends Friday night, Saturday night, deleting some Labatt Blue Lights, living life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer. Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York.
Tux Takes.
All right, Ross, do you have any thoughts or takeaways from the preseason Week 2 lineup and any action before we get to Week 3?
I don't really even remember everything that happened preseason Week 2, other than a lot of people having a lot of takes out there. So I'm actually going to make this my take this week, my Labatt take of the week, presented by Labatt Blue Light, the pristine Canadian Pilsner. Enjoy your beers together so you can live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. You're both wrong. The guys that just, no matter what happens in the preseason, you post right away or you reply, it's preseason, dude, doesn't mean anything, nothing. Dude, they're playing against backups, bro, it's preseason. You're as wrong as the people that say, Steelers are going to stink, like Steve Fezzik on Even Money, by the way. Steelers are going to stink, and Russell Wilson's washed. You're both wrong. How about a little bit of nuance? How about realizing it's more in between? Sure, the score doesn't matter. Really, how the teams play doesn't even matter. How individuals play, yeah, that does matter a little bit. Should be taken into account. Sure, it might be against backups or whatever. You'd still rather the guy play well than play like crap. Breathe a little bit.
So what about the press box food in New England, Ross? We didn't get to that Monday, but we need to give the people what they want.
Oh, yeah. We forgot about that. It was good. It was really good. Salad, veggies, Mongolian beef, chicken, teriyaki salmon. Of course, I had double teriyaki salmon. Of course, they had the chowder, New England clam chowder in the corner. I always get that. I give them major props for the ice cream and apple crisp. Cold ice cream, Jack, warm apple crisp. There was a candy station evidently on the second level. I was not aware of that. Probably for the best. Only had Diet Pepsi as a drink, so slight downgrade there. But they even had sandwiches. I give them a A-. Pretty solid effort from the Patriots. Greg Cosell tomorrow and Fantasy Feast today. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. It's anniversary season. Some of you have birthdays for loved ones, but a lot of you have anniversaries because you somehow let your significant other talk you into going ahead and having a wedding in September, October. You obviously love them a lot if you let them get married during football season. If you let them talk you into getting married during football season, get them the gift that keeps on giving. myfrontpagestory.com, backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, sport